Oh, there you go. That's right on the money. Perfect.
All right, we'll get it up there somewhere.
Rich, I'll introduce you to Greg, who's on. You can, if you can see him. Greg is now part of the team. He was added as Rob Rule added him as a member on the last. I saw your name. I saw your name in the last meeting, Rich. So I'm not sure if your video just wasn't working. If you were able to hear.
My video was. My voice wasn't. Is my voice working out?
Yes, it's working beautifully.
Okay.
How you feel?
Good. Yeah.
How you feeling, Rich?
I'm feeling good.
Good.
Yeah.
Okay. I see Emma has joined us. Eric, how are you?
Good. How's it going?
Eric.
Hey, Richard. Hey, Greg.
Hey. Your audio is broken up.
What's that? Sorry, you're breaking up a little bit.
Look, Greg, can you hear me clearly, or is it just Eric's audio?
I got you now.
I can hear you now. Yeah.
Okay. We're just gonna wait for Abby to join in.
I'm here. I am just I'm in the car right now, so I am. Yeah, we're good to go. I think we have a quorum.
Okay. So we'll jump on this. There's a 5813 number that is at the bottom of my screen, but it doesn't look like they have any connection.
That should be Mark's audio. So I believe Mark Voigt.
Okay, Mark's audio. Okay, good deal.
He's been connecting for a while.
No worries. I have reviewed the agenda from last time, the minutes. So I'd like to move to open the meeting and approve the minutes from last week. Do I have a second?
Second.
There we go. So we'll move into the agenda. We really can't move off this agenda, so it's a special meeting. And by the way written bylaws, we can only stick to the agenda that we've written. And we want to stay super focused today on trying to get the bullet points for this about section describing Waterford, and making sure that by the next meeting, there's something in writing that we can present to Rob and say, want to have go on the website, and understanding that we can amend this as we go. So nothing that we decide this week and next week is permanent. We can make adjustments. That makes sense?
Yep.
Fantastic. Greg, do you want to start?
What, approving the minutes from?
No, we already approved those, so we're just moving on to the agenda and starting on about section, and giving your bullets of what's wonderful about. Hello.
Yep. Hold on one second here.
Hey, Ed.
Good afternoon. Sorry I'm late.
No worries. We just started. We approved minutes. We're just going to start filling out the bullet points for what's great about Waterford.
All right. I guess I'll lead off then. I mean, I think it should be a few things, right? One's kind of just pointing to facts, right, and kind of demographic information, and then other ones I think should kind of parlay, assets that the town has to differentiate ourselves versus other locations, right? The data itself could, be an asset within itself for them to assess on their own, but making that information available, I think, would be useful. and be a benefit in its own right. So, I mean, the obvious things, right? Population, footprint, you know, what the town's origins are, right? So a couple things I found, right? It's a lot of agricultural root. A lot of granite was mined here in the past. Kind of interesting, it's coming full circle maybe with this prefab concrete. You know, some of that granite was used in the Statue of Liberty. Medium income, 73,000 about, right, per capita, 1,015. So Abby probably has all that information, may have more accurate information than I was able to find, but finding things of that nature would be, I think, useful to incorporate somehow. I think the highlights are a lot of the areas, the locations, the neighborhoods within this town, right? So, I mean, it's a little diverse in terms of what the environments are. Like you look at Mago Point, and then the whole Harkness Seaside, Eugene O'Neill area, all the way to, you know, Quaker Hill, Civic Triangle, a lot of abutting properties to New London, 95 corridor, 395 corridor, you know, really focusing on areas that are ripe for development and, you know, the integral assets to each of those specific areas. We can also talk about rail, the Deepwater Port. You know, we have assets in adjacent towns that could be a regional attraction too that we could parlay. You know, what's our access to international airports, things like that, transportation. Big economic drivers in the area, such as you know, maybe electric boat. I don't know if, you know, those are things we really want to get into, but again, it talks about the region we're in and the context of which this area fits. You know, local hospital, you have two, I got to be careful about this because I work for one of them, but, you know, we're unique in that we have two internet providers that can provide coax internet service. A lot of people from different areas don't think about that, but I'm going to stay away from that. We have the Coast Guard Academy, a lot of educational institutions. I know a lot of businesses want to consider that. They want to be where the universities are. Not that we have any major universities, but, you know, we do have educational facilities within the area, such as Conn College and Mitchell and Coast Guard Academy. And they're all within 15 miles. You know, we have some cool things being done. I know I mentioned Eugene O'Neill, but you can also parlay Sonolis Studios into that. And yeah, I mean, I think that's about it for now, but I think, you know, getting more of that demographic information and making that kind of blend in and how we blend into the region and what the region has to offer along with our strengths and assets.
Okay. Eric?
Yeah, I mean, I agree with, you know, all the points that Greg just brought up. I think that there is a lot of this information does live kind of on the site now, but in a very incoherent way, and in some cases not complete way. So I know we've all looked at the page before, but I'm just going to screen share real quick so you guys can. No, I'm not, because the host has disabled participation of screen sharing. But if you go to the page, you know, there are links on the Economic Development Commission page on the left-hand rail there for Jordan Village, Mago Point District. But like if you click the Mago Point District link, it's an error. It says page not found. If you click the Jordan Village link, it brings you to like a third-party website away from us, which is livingspaces.com, which does have a lot of really good historical information about Jordan Village. But I think just organizing this stuff, you know, based on what we, you know, how we want to formulate it, and kind of putting it all into like a why Waterford, more appealing, all in one spot kind of place for this information to live, seems to be the most glaring thing to me. Because it's not that all this information is missing, it's just all over the place, and some of it is missing, even though it looks like it's there. So kind of consolidating everything into one either page or one spot on the page, even if it's a link to open up to a larger article of, you know, why Waterford, or, you know, however we want to phrase the headline, and you know, make sure we break up our focus into everything that's on the page now so we don't miss anything. And then, like Greg said, adding some of the stuff that is more recent, so might have developed over the past couple of years, so it might not be on there, or is just missing in general, like Eugene O'Neill and some of that other good stuff. But I do think that adding all of that, like even as finalists, personally, I think all of it is good context for people who aren't familiar with the area to kind of show the depth of what goes on around here.
And we don't want to seem impartial too. I don't know what you think about this, Kevin. You know, if we're going to name drop certain businesses, I mean, maybe Abby can answer this too. You know, what's the efficacy of that, right? And I kind of look at it as, you know, maybe we just start from scratch, and it certainly doesn't mean we don't recycle some things, but I think it might just be good to understand what we're trying to do, you know, wholly new and just kind of rebuild. You know, I think, you know, going into the video, going into the webpage, a lot of the things that Eric had just mentioned.
Well, we will rebuild that whole web page from the standpoint of how it looks. None of us are happy with the links that are there. I think the idea that we talked about in the last meeting was creating, you know, kind of script, a language around all the things that are wonderful, and in that you put the links to all those pieces. So instead of having necessarily quick links on the left side of the page, but bury them within the context of the story that we're trying to tell. So as people are, you know, read about beaches and we talk about the beaches, that we have links in there that'll take them directly to those so they can gather more information. So as they are reading that story about what's great about Waterford, and they read something that interests them, they can click on it right there instead of having to go hunt for it throughout the rest of it. But we can talk about organization of the page afterwards. I think the key to today is really about gathering all the data that we can about what's great about our town, so that I can then hand those bullet points to Eric and say, okay, let's organize this into the life, live, play kind of headings that we talked about, and that way we can you know, kind of tell that story under those four kind of precursors.
Yeah, and I you know, I left out education. You know, town invests a lot in education. I tend to think we have a pretty top flight system here, so that's another thing to market.
Absolutely. Rich sent me a list of items, and then I'll jump over to Ed, since on my screen, I'm just going as it's set up on the screen. He wrote in that the major businesses in shopping and industrial off 95, 395, Route 1 and 85. We are very easy access from a standpoint of driving for getting business on and off. We're not off the highway, so we're very easy access for a lot of those businesses. Obviously, the East Coast Corridor Railway he talked about in his. Greg, you brought that up as well, as the two airports within an hour of us, which, you know, makes us really advantageous. And he also wrote close to the Coast Guard Academy and Connecticut College. I think those are great attractions to our area. You know, and once the museum is built, if the museum is built, that'll be another attraction for us. That'll make it, you know, a positive, you know, for Waterford.
And if I could just inject something real quick too, now you mentioned the museum, they're going to be doing the wind turbine thing, hopefully, right? So that's another economic driver in the region. I probably don't want to forget.
Right. So add those to it. Ed, do you have some items? I know you weren't, I think, were you at the last meeting?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. So, you know, fire away.
Well, these guys, Eric and Greg, took all the oxygen out of the room. They covered everything. There's not much, I mean, we're all in agreement that those are the attributes of the town. And we're also in agreement that they need to be presented properly, because it's like it's like a mishmash. If we had a presentation that was excellent, that would help it. And I think that that's what we could work on. But I thought another part of this was going to be what EDC was going to provide, not just what Waterford, you know, I mean, what Waterford has for assets are good, but weren't we talking about what we could do for people coming into town as far as,
sorry.
hang on, I got somebody adjusting me here. Weren't we talking about what we could offer to people, what the EDC could offer to people? And I thought that was going to be part of this.
Unfortunately, because this is a special meeting, we had to switch the meeting from last week to this. We don't have the freedoms that we would normally have in a normal meeting. It has been, our bylaws have been described to me by Abby that we really need to stick to the agenda because it's a special meeting. So we can't really run off of the agenda, and I apologize for not adding it to it that you're talking about, but I'll make sure it's added to the next one so we can make sure we dive more deeply into that.
Yeah, but the agenda was the website, and the website would include more than just the attributes of the town, wouldn't it?
It would, but I don't understand what you mean. I'm confused. How are
Well,
you
like
talking
we
about?
were talking about boot camps, you know, for information for people for you know, bringing a business to town.
So more of an EDC specific.
Right.
Okay.
I mean, that's the purpose of it. I mean, not just, I mean, I wouldn't say specific. I would say that at least 50% the attributes of the town and 50% what the EDC is about. You know, I mean, that's what we are.
Okay. Well, again, we were just trying to get the page for about written so we could get it done, the bullet points done today, so that it gives Erica the next month to put this into a written document so that we could actually get this on next month. I think Rich will be happy with what we come up with. I've got a lot more I'm going to add to it, but let's do this and then we can add those after that. Is that okay?
Sure, it's a living document, right?
Absolutely. All right, so other things that I came up with, I talked to a few people in the town. I started Carrie at Park and Rec, since she's been here, a part of the town for 40-something years. One of the things that I always loved was the summer concert series that takes place down at Waterford Beach. We have concert series that runs June through August there. We sometimes draw as many as 3,000 people. For those events, which is fantastic and very family orientated. We have an October Harvest Festival. We have an end of December, basically New Year's Eve celebration with fireworks, food, and games. The firemen's fairs that we have are very community centric. Whether it's the one down in Goshen that's been going on for 40 or 50 years. Goshen Fire Department, or the one that happens at Oswegatchie that they will either rent out the field, in the old days, or next to Walmart for a fair. The fishing that we have is pretty great, and we have a lot of fishing boats that go out of Mago Point. The fishing at Smith Cove and Pleasure Beach, all pretty cheap for people to get fishing licenses. And we can have a link right there so that if someone's saying, oh, they have fishing here, that they could, link right over to it. We have two big Christmas tree lightings, one at Quaker Hill, one at Town Hall downtown. We have a fantastic community center. And we've had a community center band that's been going on for more than 50 years, where we have a lot of people who played at the Coast Guard band. And I don't know if any of you guys have been to that, but it's pretty spectacular. A lot of retirees play in our community center band. The intramural sports from lacrosse and softball, baseball, soccer, and wrestling are pretty cool. We also have Interface Food Locker, help people in need in the town, along with Waterford Youth and Family Services. So we kind of have a gamut of not only things that attract us, but want to keep people interested in our town, as well as showing that we're willing to support beyond just the glamour and flash. There's more to it to draw the community together. Greg, you touched on one that I wrote down a little more on. It's the character of the villages. You have Jordan Village. You have all these little character parts of Waterford that kind of have their own history and their own little nuances around the area. I think that we we can expand on as well.
Yeah, the industrial park, you know what I mean? That area up north.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, even when you go up to Quaker Hill, there's a lot of character in those neighborhoods up there as well.
Not a lot of room for commercial development, though.
No, there isn't. But I think, you know, when we talk about economic development, it's also making sure that our town stays fresh with new residents coming in. You know, all these apartment buildings being built, we want to make sure that those get filled. We keep people around, and maybe they transition from apartments to housing down the road, and are here full time with us and part of the base as they transition from
Well, the
apartment.
diversity in terms of areas you could live in, right, and what the atmosphere feels like. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely.
That older riverfront Quaker Hill thing going on, right, or the, you know, more in the woods as you go up to like Huntsbrook Farm towards the Montville town line, and then you also have, you know, the you know, the Goshen area and things like that.
So I jotted all these things down now as you guys were talking about them. I was making a list, and I'll add it to this. Is there anything on? Oh yeah, I'm sorry. We have 29 miles of hiking trails in our town, which I didn't know until Carrie, you know, told me about. I know, you know, a couple trails that are out there, but she started rattling off these different hiking trails around the area here in Waterford that I was totally blown away with.
Do you think maybe we should just reach out to the community for them to maybe even tell us what they think is so great about living in Waterford? I mean, maybe there's some things we could be missing that, you know, we just didn't even think about.
Well, that's what I did. I reached out to 3 or 4 different people that had been a part of the town for 40 years or more, and was asking them about it. You know, the head of Park and Rec is Carrie. I've touched base with a couple of friends that have been a part of the community for 40 years as well, asking them about the changes in the characters, and that's where I got this list compiled from.
Yep. Yeah, I mean, that's great. I mean, I think even to expand on that, we had talked, you know, in addition to a website, maybe some kind of social media presence. So maybe, you know, under that banner, we go on the Waterford Community Forum or whatever, and to say, hey, what do you like about Waterford? Why is Waterford a great place to live and to grow or whatever, and see what people in the community like about it, why they're here. I'm sure there might be some negative things written, but that's all right.
Can I get a
Go ahead,
question? It seems to me that this discussion is a very residential-oriented discussion. I mean, you know, it's great that we have all these attributes and hiking trails and fishing. It's wonderful, but I don't know that that's what's going to promote economic development. I mean, it will fill apartments and it will fill houses, but right now we have an inventory shortage, and I mean, apartments are like drying up everywhere. People are coming here from New York and other places and getting the heck out of the city, and we're running out of inventory for apartments. And I think that our focus is economic development, and we have a huge problem with empty stores. I mean, you know, people are going out of business. When this thing comes over, you're going to see half of those restaurants on Bank Street gone. There are empty units all over the place and empty land that Rich has been talking about for the longest time. And, you know, I think that that's going to bring more tax revenue into the town than, you know, I don't know how we got on this attribute in town.
Because Rob Rule asked me to rewrite the About section on the header page of the Waterford website.
Right.
We then, group sat in front, and I put the website up on the wall, and we all said we needed to, at least the people that were attending, that we needed to rewrite that so we had a better splash page that talked about the advantages of the town. So taking these one thing at a time to try to get them done, rather than taking 4 or 5 things and getting very little. We all said we wanted to move forward with this first thing. So we chose this first thing to move forward with. I totally agree with you on the economic development, totally. But there's nothing we're going to do right now to change economic development, because right now we're still in the middle of this coronavirus. We don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. And anything we do is going to change because there's going to be more stimulus coming, and other things that'll have far more reach impact than what reaching out that we're going to do to businesses that are probably not going to survive. And I agree with you with that. I don't know that there's much we're going to be able to do because we don't have any money to hand them, and that's what they need right now to kind of sustain themselves. Goodwill and that kind of stuff.
We're not going to hand them money, but we do have real estate and property that we can. Is Ruby Tuesdays pulled out of here totally?
Ruby Tuesdays is out, but there's discussion about potential occupancy of that building.
Yeah, see, that's what we need is to put people in these spots because there's going to be a bunch of them.
Speaking from, the Dime Brands, Chili's, and some others that are big outfits from a restaurant standpoint, everybody is holding on to what they have, and there's very little development going on until they know what the new normal is. Building a new business right now or taking over an existing location is the last thing any business is going to do right now until they know what the new normal is going to be. But I think it's something we have to think about of what we can do once that time comes. But the whole idea behind today wasn't really about economic development, is that the Economic Development Commission does control that website and the about piece. So we're fulfilling that one role that we have and trying to rewrite that so that that page and that website has pertinent information, that it has things that are included, because right now none of these things that we just talked about today are included on it, which was why we were trying to build this list. And Rob asked me in our meeting 2 months ago, he and I, to please, rewrite this. So that's what this was about. It's not specifically about economic development. It's really about the town, and that's part of what our mission is.
But my concern is, what's the purpose of the video that we're going to replace at some point? That would encompass a lot of things that you were talking about with a presentation that people could see in the video.
Absolutely. I think everybody learns things differently. Some people like to read, some people like to look at videos. But the whole idea is that if it's in the written text, we can bury links into the texts that will help connect people more seamlessly and make it a little more intuitive. The video itself is going to show them pictures. You're not really going to have links within the video that's going to take you to where you want to go. So it depends on how someone wants to use it. But if we have that all done on that front page over the next couple months, that we're going to have a splash page that's going to be a lot more user friendly and intuitive for people who go to it. Right now, it's not.
Plus, I see that kind of almost being the script we use when we do get to the video stage, so everything's cohesive.
Absolutely.
I think it's about setting the scenery, right? If you're a small business owner, a prospective small business owner, and it means setting up shop somewhere, and you have to consider the place you're going to raise a family, the place you're going to live, where you're going to go grocery shopping, what you're going to do. I think that kind of factors in terms of employee welfare and what does the area have to offer. So some of those components, I understand they're not necessarily like industrial drivers, and we definitely want those too. But I think we want to also sell it as a nice place to live, which is another reason to bring your business here.
I do agree that these are the building blocks, and we're putting those together right now.
One piece of it. It's not the whole kit and kibosh, right? So
just one piece.
Going back to what Ed was talking about, at some point, this virus is going to be over. And as Ed, was thinking, is we have to put our plans in place now to be up front when things open up again, or ready to open up again. And we're talking about maybe 3-4 months. It's going to take that much time to just get anything done.
Well, Rich, I think that it would be great if we had a roadmap of knowing what that looked like. I know personally with my business, I have absolutely no idea what that looks like.
Is that right?
We just had the state of Pennsylvania contract back from businesses that were open to 50% occupancy back to 25. You have 4 states that haven't even opened up restaurants yet at this point, or businesses as a whole, and many others, 11 that have contracted back. So we don't know what it's like, and I can't even say to you that 3 or 4 months they're going to be opened back up again, because going back into the fall at this point, We don't have any type of way of securing an injection to keep people safe from this COVID. And I think that it's going to ramp back up again. It's the fear that everybody has. So I think 3 or 4 months is in my opinion, a dream at this point. I wish it was going to be like that, but I don't even know what that's going to be. So if you have an idea of what we should be doing 3 or 4 months from now, I'm happy to hear it, but I don't know what that new normal is.
I think it's important right now that we get the website ready, because I'm going to stay positive and assume this is going to get behind us, right? Hopefully relatively soon, talking, maybe within a year, hopefully. When it does clear and everybody has confidence, right, has the economic confidence to go make decisions, spend money. I think a lot of businesses right now, they want to stay capital rich to survive things. When this is over, they're going to want to spend and grow, right? And when that comes, I think we want to be positioned to reap the benefit of that. So I think getting the website down, right, having all the information there and getting this piece done and being prepared for when that moment does arise, will put us in a great competitive position. And another thing I haven't done yet, but I think we should look at is what are other EDCs doing in other municipalities throughout the country in terms of their webpage design. What points do they think are relevant to place there? I know Windsor Lock seems to have a lot of success with this, so maybe that should be somebody to maybe get some cues from.
Yeah, if you want to look at a webpage that looks really good, and they spent a ton of money on it, and that's Groton. They have a web page, and theirs is really, really well done. They spend some coin on it to make it look great. I don't know what bang for the buck they get, but it's not a detraction, that's for sure.
Yeah, well, just take the best of everything we can find and just
yeah. Abby, you got some thoughts with that?
Yeah, I think we're looking at the first impression folks get in the first 2 seconds that they click on something about the town, right? And if on the Google search the town page pops up first, and they click on that homepage and it's just empty, I think we have kind of a problem. I agree. Groton has done a fantastic job. They've put, I would say, $250,000 of stuff into their marketing research, their website development, their market analysis and studies about who they're going to recruit and when and how, plus additional staffing. So there's a ton of work that's gone into that. And I think the question for us is, how much can we kind of piggyback off of and copy, and what makes sense? And then what kind of investments are we asking for over time to help support the work of the EDC? So long story short, I think what we're talking about right now is selling the brand and the feeling of the town, and making sure the identity of the town is clear to somebody who might be looking at this versus other places and saying, okay, let's help make that decision really easy for folks. And we haven't really talked about the infrastructure that we provide, and not having to have a septic system in the state of Connecticut in the suburban area is a pretty darn good thing.
I have a septic, so.
Others who don't.
One of the 2 roads in town.
Has Groton ever given you any information, or do they even have any information? Are they doing anything to find out how effective that money has been for them? They've got this beautiful setup, but is there any way to measure the results?
So they do some tracking. John Reiner does do some. And then before Jason Vincent left Stonington, he and I were talking, and he were sharing back and forth the development of a spreadsheet that I think everybody in the region was going to start looking at some version of that to say, okay, let's look at the timing of our investments in EDC stuff and some of the stuff that we are, what is the date that a new website hit or a new campaign to attract a particular kind of business hit, and then start tracking over time the types of developments that come and the amount of tax revenue that they generate. Because, I think one of the things that I'll be working on in the next few weeks is, even just over the last 5 to 10 years, how much revenue has been generated at what points, and then can we start to correlate how we have been doing business with some of that income. So those efforts are in place, but they're not up and running yet.
Mm-hmm.
So we're actively working on those tracking metrics then?
Yep, and so what we're going to do is use what Jason started in Stonington and brought back to Norwich, and then I think we need to tweak it for Waterford. So the next conversation will be with this group to say, okay, how can we, are these metrics the ones that are going to make the most sense for us?
I wonder, Abby, going after some of these metrics, I think some of the things I was talking about is like what things are a lot of the people that are prospecting this town looking at? Like what numbers are they looking at from planning? Median capital income, stuff like that. Like what matters to these people? Like, what are they asking you guys?
Well, exactly. I mean, we're talking about, and Kevin, we're talking road counts. What's your traffic? What's your area income? What are your demographics? All of that information is fairly straightforward to get. I think we can package it in a prettier way. But every year the state puts out, the cut sheets on the towns that make it really, this stuff is really simple to get. I think it's our job to sell it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think a lot of those too, from a business standpoint, and I think I can chime in here, that comes through the MIS listings, and that stuff, most realtors have that information handy. And so if a business is looking for it, because every business is going to be different, right? Their demographics is going to be different. What they're looking for median income is going to be different. So, those MIS listings are going to have a lot of that information. And they don't necessarily businesses come to the town to look for it. So I think we're talking apples and oranges at this point, though both under our purview. We're talking about, introducing ourselves. I'm not sure that is in the about page. That's more on the EDC side, things we can do to kind of promote business. But to answer Ed's question, Ed, we don't have a metrics yet that works. So we don't know if what we've done has value yet, or what Groton has done has value yet. But hopefully in the near future we will. One thing we did know is we were never able to track whether somebody that was in charge of economic development that was a salaried person ever earned income. It was very difficult to track what new business was really truly being brought in. That's the only thing we research on to this point.
And I think some of this stuff too, and I know we need to go kind of back to the about piece and kind of how that sort of answering Rob's questions and that crafting of those statements need to come forward. But I think, some of this stuff, we're small enough that some of this stuff is kind of subjective, and it might be better to rely less on the numeric metrics. Certainly track by year how much economic development, what is the bottom line that is being added, and what portion of that might the EDC take credit for, or whatever. But I think that there is also an element of, if we want to get real information about why people are coming here, we got to talk to people who are opening businesses and who have chosen to be here. And I think we'll gain much more information from that at this point than trying to just run it by the numbers.
Yeah,
that goes back to the whole survey thing, right? Correct me if I'm wrong. You guys tried to do a survey not too long ago, right?
Information is not easy to get. That's the problem.
Well, I'm painfully aware. My profession.
Groton, and obviously they have a budget for this stuff. It looks like they used an agency called Golden Shovel out of Minnesota. That's from their website. Looks like they specifically work with local economic development commissions around the country. That's all they do, and they have a lot of tracking capabilities here and different ways to deliver metrics. I got to imagine if they built the website with them, that this agency is also probably helping provide some of that ancillary stuff that might be harder to get a snapshot of.
Yeah, and I think it's really just a matter of how much we want to pay for information, or how much do we want to start off by getting some anecdotal feedback from folks, track the information we already have, and then build a case to spend money and ask for something of the RTM, as there's a capital expenditure for promoting this kind of work. I think there's an argument to be made, but I think that we have to put the work in to make it.
So I guess maybe we, along with the about on the the website and revamping that, in a correlation to that, do we do social media things where maybe we can just, I don't know, try to share them and get inputs. I know it's not finite data that you can verify, but at least maybe you should give us some indicators. I don't know if that's appropriate. What do you think?
Well, no, Greg, I think that's great, and I think I know where you're going with this, but you can correct me. One of the things that I think we should be doing very soon as we do this video from this list that we've kind of created is have that social media post where every month we meet, that each person is going to bring something different that we can post on social media, so that we have it be fresh. The problem with social media is, and Eric, illustrated this very early on, is that if we don't have something that's posted new frequently, that it gets stale very quickly and you're irrelevant very quickly. So, who's going to manage that content? So that's going to probably fall on us from an EDC standpoint. At least come with some things that are happening, so that we can make some posts that are relevant to our town within the month and structure that we're working. Is that what you were kind of leaning toward?
Yeah, I mean, it's the way to do community outreach. What was kind of the point, right? And so I think it's worth having some kind of a presence and seeing what we get out of it. I mean, even if we start off slow, we can always keep ramping it up. But at least get the ball the ball rolling here. I mean, we have a bunch of about ideas. I think we need to find a way to get it concise and all this somewhere we can agree on, right? And then how do we take that script and then turn it into content, right? And then simultaneously, maybe we should start, maybe releasing some social media posts or something like that as well. Just at least that way we're jumping in a little bit,
Right.
Yeah.
And I think on that, go ahead, Eric.
I was going to say frequency is important, but we definitely don't need to go crazy either. I mean, if at each meeting we could come up with 5 posts for the next month that we want to do, I'll do it and I'll schedule them. And that's not going to be anything crazy. And of course, we can always post stuff on the fly if stuff comes up. But I mean, you don't have to worry about coming up with a 15 post a month campaign or anything like that. Just enough to keep relevant information in front of people, and so when people, if they do click through from the website to the Facebook page or just find the Facebook page organically somehow, that it is relevant and up-to-date stuff.
I think a lot of the content will be redundant. It'll be on the website. It'll also be on a social media post, right? You just kind of just build it in and put it in different places so it gets more exposure.
But I think you can also this is where we can kind of tie in what Ed and Rich was talking about, is that we can go out and do a social media post from, this location. Hey, we have this great prime property out here. This is Kevin. I'm out on Cross Road and we're looking at this property that's out here.
Bring your business to Waterford.
Exactly. Here's this location, and Rich, you've got a real intimate knowledge of a lot of these because you worked so hard on that, the other database that we could easily, institute, incorporate some of those pieces into it. Ed, you were talking about how, we can be a part of the EDC, and maybe we do a social media post from Tractor Supply or the new businesses that come in and have just a quick quib, in front of those businesses to give not only a little exposure, but things that we can be doing to help assist them. So it's not just a piece of paper that we're handing them in a welcome letter, but it's also that kind of ongoing support, which is what we intended to do. So I think the social media post could be much more about the EDC as well. So maybe now that we have a list of the about, which I will now take and put into some bullets under those headings, those 4 headings we talked about, and I'll stop in and Abby, you and I can talk about this offline. I'll stop in next week. We can kind of finalize this. I'll get this over to Eric next week. Maybe what we talk about in the next meeting is what some of those things can be on those social media posts, and we can move quickly into that. I'm fine with doing that.
I love the idea of like showcasing the new business, right? Or if some business in town did something pretty exemplary, highlight them, or, we have a certain property that we want to promote, right? And we can have a nice mix. So it's not all just one thing, right? It's kind of a synergy in the process.
Coming up with a format, like we want one, new business post, one like on location post, and then, branding and some messaging stuff just about what we do and what's going on.
With photos?
We're
You're
touching
looking for photos?
What's that?
Yeah, we can.
You gotta have photos. You don't
yeah.
want words.
That's one of the reasons I put that list. I categorized all the businesses based on the shopping centers, because my thought in that was to start some kind of media with the shopping centers, you know, as where their locations at. So maybe they could put something together to promote their businesses in that one shopping center. And that could be done also on social media.
Yep, I agree. I think that we have a lot of fluidity with that piece. So maybe the things that we can come up with is, you know, some topics that are personal to us that we could have as a somewhat a consistent look at, you know, featuring a business, featuring new property, featuring, you know, those types of things on the social media posts, so that we can have some of that content that we can do every single month, that we can bring 5 or 6 things, as Eric said, that we can post.
We could maybe even have a blurb on the actual web page where it's just redundant from what we posted on social media, and just kind of have it in the piece on the website too. You know what I mean? And I don't know how you exactly engineer that, but maybe you can incorporate that.
So Eric,
Well, I think we've kind of created our homework. Go ahead, Ed.
do these photos, could they include a video?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can post a video, and you get the technology to do any of that.
We could do aerial shots with drones. I mean, we can make it look cool. I mean, we can, you know, put some music behind it. We can make it great. We could do whatever. We could be the emotional development commission. Yeah. People feel like they want to be here.
I don't know how much time we have, but I do run into situations where, like the other day, I was out at a development in Waterford where they've had a successful development. They're beginning to rent their units, and people are coming in, and we're involved in it. And now they want to acquire more land and expand. And I know that the guy would love to have this showcased, because it gets him out there with available units. It gets him out there with a success story in Waterford. It's a good thing for us. But how long would this be up? You know, I mean, it takes time to do these things. And I know that you want to refresh constantly, but I mean, if you did have something like this, what would it be up, 7 days? And
no. It's not. It's up forever. So the new content just will push it further and further down. But someone will be able to find that post a year from now if they want.
Okay, so
yeah, we could share it a year from now if we wanted to re-highlight it. Whatever.
Yeah. You don't get old by just keeping new things on the top.
And sometimes, like Throwback Thursday, sometimes people will repost something they posted years ago, like just kind of to be like, oh my gosh, look at this! I can't believe I was doing this.
Right.
So
Hey, I can go out with my phone to this place, to this, you know, to the complex, meet the owner, and take a video of the phone, and we could post it that day.
Yep.
It takes
post it right in the parking lot.
And they'll share it, you know, they'll put it on their social media. It'll get traction that way too. So that's great.
Okay.
So it's not going to be hard for us to do. What we want to try to do, though, is let's have at least some consistent topics, so that people have, you know, we can have some things that are free floating, but there should be a couple things that are in there, you know, featuring the business, featuring, you know, and I'm just kind of talking off the top of my head, but those are the things I think we need to come back to in the next meeting and say, hey, here's what I think we should feature. Here's a couple things we should feature. And if we come up with a couple things, then we can go right out. We can pick those things up, do a quick interview with somebody, and they can talk about their business, and we can stick it up there pretty fast, so that we can get this thing going. The faster we create the behaviors within this group, the faster we're going to get that content up.
And we just got to do things, right? And then just learn as we go a little bit, right?
Yep.
Better at it. You know, this might sound stupid, but do we have a way to know when a new business is like, maybe we could just get alerted? Because I'm not hawking the trade name certificates, but if we could get
here, we get alerted right here at this meeting, every single meeting. Abby tells about new businesses that come in.
And then we just write down, hey, we got to do content posts on this and that. You know what I mean? Maybe we can reach out to them, even have them send us the content. We just make sure it's appropriate, and then we can put it out, right?
Absolutely.
And that's the first contact point to get some idea of why they wanted to locate in Waterford. That's the start of that information coming in.
Yep. And we'll learn as we go.
That'd be great, actually, if in that post we could say they came to Waterford because of this, you know what I mean? And then, you know, highlight their business or whatever.
Are we all good with moving forward with that?
Sounds good.
Excellent. So we've got our about topics. I'll put that together. I'll, you know, kind of polish it a little bit with Abby, at least from the standpoint of bullets. Get it over to you, Eric. We can have a conversation about it if you want. You're going to have kind of a lot of free license to do what you need to do with this from the standpoint of wording. And we'll stick it in front of Rob, who will, be pleased that we've moved forward. And anybody new that has information, we just kind of add to this document and continue it to grow from there. The next meeting, we'll talk about the social media posts and topics that we're going to have. And I think every meeting from here on in, we should talk about things we want to feature. And we'll go out and do a quick, phone video and get it done.
I guess at some point, someone's got to take point on just building the, all these things. Sounds like Eric's quarterbacking the website, right?
There is a Facebook page that already exists. So I think Jim built it, maybe.
Yeah, we did, yes.
We should have a LinkedIn too.
So we would just have to have whoever give me administrative access to the page, and I can do it.
And I spoke to Jim last week. He's very interested to get involved in that area that we're talking about.
Cool.
Well, Jim's already said he wants to handle that for us. So if we create the content, we can send it over to him. He'll post it on the Facebook page, and we can then have connecting links then on our page there at Waterford for the EDC, so that there's good content to move forward with.
He worked on an EDC page also, the website. He took a good part of that with Kathy in the selectman's office.
Great. All right. Anything else?
Is Ivan still with us?
He has not stepped away. I don't know. I have not talked to him. I'll shoot him another email and see if he replies. But he has not replied to my emails at this point. I'm not sure what's going on with Ivan.
Yeah, I haven't seen him in like 3 meetings.
And Stephanie, we haven't seen in 2. This is the second one we haven't seen Stephanie.
I sent an email this week saying that she wouldn't attend.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'm on vacation, so I missed that. We're going to move past the calendar because I could not get a hold of Nancy. I know that the commercial realtors are not meeting at this point, so we haven't missed anything. We haven't missed out on anything, but we're still going to move forward with trying to hold a meeting with the commercial realtors in Waterford, with Rob, with Mark, with Abby, and us to reintroduce ourselves to them. So we're still going to move forward with that, but obviously we have to have the ability to do that safely. And right now, people are still pretty concerned about their health and well-being, and they should be. So that's going to stay on the agenda. I'll continue to update you as start to hopefully loosen up here in the future. Abby, you got anything under permitting?
Sorry,
Abby,
I was battling the phone for unmuting. Yep. So we have a few things. We were talking about the 22 Minor Lane apartments. Those are continuing to come forward and finalize with their certificates of occupancy. The Planning and Zoning Commission did give an initial favorable sort of reaction to their thoughts on the rezoning needs that they have for the expansion that they want to do. So that's fantastic. They've been happy with the development so far, and are certainly on board with them putting an application in for the next phase. So that's great news. We continue to go forward with the FabCon proposal. We're expecting applications in for that very soon for both inland wetlands and planning and zoning. So that will be probably a series of, I would imagine, pretty well attended public hearings and an opportunity for the EDC to weigh in there. On Monday night, yep, go ahead.
Hey, with the FabCon meetings, do we have dates on those so that we can all attend?
Not yet, no, they haven't formally applied yet. So once they do, we'll make sure you're aware of when those hearings are.
Great, because we want to all attend and support that and do what we can to get us move forward smoothly.
Mm-hmm. So there's that. On Monday, also, the Planning and Zoning Commission approved a special permit for agritourism activities on Colchester Road. So this is, folks, it's commonly referred to as the wedding barn, but it's a sort of a first permitting opportunity for them to be able to move forward with the potential for building permits and septic and all that kind of stuff, to move forward with things that range from kind of pick your own types of things through to events. So that has gone through. and they still have, you know, a series of other permitting elements to contend with, but that's on, you know, one more piece that's kind of gone in their favor.
Any showstoppers?
So that went through.
With?
Say that again, I'm sorry.
Any showstoppers that we can help with that process, or are they going to get through, you think?
Yeah, do they have toilets?
Well, they were approved for, so Ledge Light Health District had issued a conditional approval for a septic system at the property. And so there are things that they still have to do to get that system to be compliant. But they do have the indication that they would be approved for the septic. The building element, there's going to be, and we've been very clear with this with the applicant too, there are challenges. You know, certainly there's compliance issues, and changing the use of a structure partway through is sometimes challenging in terms of code compliance, to take something that was meant for agricultural use and turn it into something meant for assembly. But you know, we're here to help. So I think that's really the message. And you know, I think it's certainly not going to be a simple task, because there's so much code to get through. But you know, as soon as they come forward with applications, we'll be right on them.
Great. Anything else?
Yep. So there was also some modifications made to one of our properties on the corner of Foster and Crossroads, where the gym is, and Jim Ray's property there. That is was just expanded to enable some vehicle repairs for shipments. So sort of an auxiliary space for them to actually do some of the repair work that they can't do at their current facility. So trying to take current businesses and allow them to expand and keep their operations in Waterford. So that'll happen Monday night.
What company?
Shipments Fire.
Shipments Fire. Okay.
Just to add to that same property, there was also an approval that same night for Arkwright, which is a electronic and robotic manufacturing facility. So they were also approved that same night in a new warehouse building that's being constructed on site.
Where's that at?
Waterford Fitness behind there. Air gas.
Yeah, that's at 70 Foster Road as well. At the end of the road, the last warehouse on your left.
Right, there's a newer building there, and then I don't know, it's like a dirt road or something, right?
Yes.
That's what happened. Yeah.
Excellent.
We're at the end of the road. What's the plans for extending that road further for more development? Are we at the point of environmental issues?
Could be a combination of that and ownership issues as well. We don't own the road all the way into the woods there. That's at some point the right of way stops, and then becomes a private right of way and private property as well. So there's no plans to extend Foster any farther than what it is now.
Anything else, Abby?
I think that's really the bulk of what has gone on so far. I think some of the things that we're looking at in the near term, we have another group that's coming in for the next meeting to talk to the Planning and Zoning Commission about future uses for the Ruby Tuesday site. So that'll be coming forward, and they just want to run some scenarios by them for that. And then we're also starting to think through what happens when the governor's executive orders expire relative to outdoor dining. We've already adopted the food truck piece. We've already adopted some modifications to our alcohol separation stuff. So we have some things that are supportive of folks being flexible with the way that they do business. But one of the things that would be expiring potentially in the fall would be that the ability to take up parking lot area and that kind of stuff for outdoor dining. So we're going to talk to folks, at Philomena's, and we're going to talk to folks around town and see what the interest is in continuing those operations if they feel like they need to, and it's working for their businesses at least through the end of this season into October, November, if the executive orders don't continue.
Abby, what's the business that's showing interest in the Ruby Tuesdays location?
Mark, you've been talking to him more, but the rumor I heard was potentially Chick-fil-A. Mark, is that accurate still?
That was one of the options that was presented. Really, what their focus is on right now is to present to the commission a scenario where they might consider allowing drive-through service at restaurants in that zone district. Currently, drive-throughs are not permitted in that zone, and the zone being pretty much Waterford Commons. And so what's being proposed is right now just an informal discussion with the Planning and Zoning Commission to see how receptive they would be to lift that restriction and to allow drive-throughs at, in that zone district.
How receptive are we to lifting that restriction?
Exactly.
Yeah, we might. I mean, certainly drive-throughs are allowed in every other commercial district in town.
Good.
So, the special development district, which is where where Waterford Commons is right now. When that was first developed, there was a kind of an ideal concept of being a lifestyle center. Okay, like you would find at Evergreen Walk, places like that, to be a little bit more pedestrian friendly, going from store to store in that realm, and to keep the fast food joints out. And so what's being presented now is what this COVID-19 is highlighting, is that these restaurants that don't have this ability to offer drive-through service are suffering more so than those, than just the brick and mortar that have the drive-through.
Right.
So there's some discussion in that.
So
Mark, when is the Planning Commission meeting for this, and is that going to be public?
It's going to be presented to the commission at the next meeting. It's an informal conversation with the commission, so it's not an application. It's just a presentation between the person or the entity that's interested in lifting that restriction, and see what the commission will gauge towards that.
When is that?
That is the 27th, I believe, the next P&Z meeting.
Mark,
Okay, what time? At 5 or 6?
It's at, I think, Abby, we still set it for 6:30.
I think the commissioners wanted to go back to evening meetings, so it'll be at 6:30.
Yeah.
And that's town hall?
No, that'll be probably a Zoom meeting.
It's a Zoom meeting.
Can you make sure that we're invited to that so that we can show them some support?
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Mark, one more question on that. Does it have to be where they allow it throughout that entire complex, or because that is so close to the road, could it just be a situation where they allow a drive-through there and not go through an act of Congress that, Mike's sub shop is never going to have a drive-through there. I mean, he's sandwiched in. Cold Stone Creamery is never going to have a drive-through. So, that place lends itself to having a drive-through very easily.
And it's freestanding.
Right. Yeah, right. It's freestanding, which is why. The idea, what would happen potentially is if the commission lifts that restriction, it would apply to any property within that zone district.
Right, but it wouldn't be feasible, like any train for anybody. They're just not located so they could have drive-through. That's about the only building in that complex.
Right.
Yeah, right. So it's going to depend on the building. It's going to depend on the queue length that they can provide for for waiting vehicles, so on and so forth. So that part is site specific. First step they got to get through is whether or not it's even allowed in the first place.
Yeah, and if there's any challenges to what may be allowed, if folks are nervous about enabling something in other buildings and don't want to go through the dimensional arguments now, they could just say, drive-throughs in standalone buildings and single occupant buildings or something to that effect. Or they could certainly dial it down in what's allowed in the district and make it work.
Absolutely.
Well, Panera Bread could put in a drive-through because they're on an end. There are places that could do it, but that Ruby Tuesdays is probably the best suited.
Freestanding building. Well, we'll definitely show our support. and I appreciate you inviting us to that Zoom meeting.
Good.
And it's nice to hear your voice, Mark. We've missed you.
Thanks. It took me a while to dial in here. I don't know what was going on.
Abby, we have any bills that we have to pay?
Nope.
As usual, because we don't spend any money.
Correct.
So, and we can't do any other business because of the special meeting we have and the restrictions. So I think we're at our end at this point. We've got marching orders, our social media posts for the next meeting. We will have this bullet points put together into some fancy language courtesy of Eric, and thank you, Eric, again for allowing us to volunteer you as a group. So the quorum did pick you, and you have no choices on this. So thanks a lot for handling that part of it, and we'll continue to go forward. What's that?
You know, one thing we didn't add when we were putting the about things in, because it looks like we're working into what the town provides, and we should be including, you know, the gas, water, internet connections. If you're going to include all those things, those would be, you know, things that people would be interested in, who's interested in located in this area.
Wi-Fi internet access, got it.
Yeah.
Thank you, Rich. Writing it down now. Okay. Then I move to adjourn our meeting. Have a second?
Second.
There we go. Folks, thanks so much for joining us for this special meeting, and we'll see you next month. Thank you.
Bye.
Okay.
Take care.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.